This week, we are talking about software. Building Engines is a software platform that property owners use to manage shopping centers, and they use it for office and industrial too. When I was at the ICSC conference in New York last month, I sat down with Daniel Russo. He's the head of Building Engines, which incidentally is a company that is owned by my company, JLL, so we are coworkers. We talked about what the value of this property management software is, like what it actually does, how it's built, what new functions they're adding. And of course, no conversation about software is complete without a discussion of AI. And it was actually pretty cool. I learned some new stuff. So sit back and relax, my retail property nerds, and let's dive in.
Live from New York, it's Where We Buy. That's right, you're listening to Where We Buy. It's the show where we talk with retail experts and we visit the places where we buy. My name is James Cook. I research retail and real estate for JLL. My guest today is Daniel Russo. Welcome, Daniel.
Hey, thanks, James. Thanks for having me.
Yes, so you run Building Engines, which is a part of JLL. Give me the high level, we're at a cocktail party, and somebody says, Building Engines, what's that? How do you respond?
It's real estate technology, software that runs the workflows in all the biggest, beautifulest buildings in the world, right? So it connects the tenants to the property teams when they have issues. It connects the property teams to their engineering teams so they can do their maintenance and their compliance inspections. It does checks in visitors and lets tenants book amenities, and we're getting into areas where we're tracking the usage of the utilities and for ESG purposes, and also helping get vendors get in and out of the buildings to do the work in the building. So it's basically a system that it's a workflow engine that really cuts down on a lot of busy work and a lot of delays and people forgetting to do things for tenants and all that. So
is it applicable specifically, is there the retail version or
right.
Is it adapted for retail?
It is. Historically, we started out in an office because they were a little bit more ahead with technology. So there's a lot of differences between office, obviously, retail, and even industrial. They're the three big building types that we support.
What do you think the biggest difference is that you've got to get right to do retail right for software?
Yeah, it's the main difference between office and retail is the lease type, the triple net lease type. So the owners care about the building, the roof, the parking lots, the things that the tenants that's not inside their space, right? And in triple net leases, the tenants service their own HVAC, anything in the space they do themselves, they pay their electrical bills, all that stuff, right? In office, it's all wrapped up in the lease, so the office property teams do a lot more for the tenants, right? So in retail, I think the biggest difference is that property teams, when there's issues in the building, because they don't have a whole team of people sitting in the building just waiting, doing work and doing maintenance, they hire vendors and third-party crews to come and do things to keep the building maintained. And then they also, in the leases, put it back on the tenant to do a lot of the maintenance in their space. So they have to manage the tenants to do the work, right? So it's a very different property structure. In office, there are lots of people in the building doing lots of stuff. In retail, it's the tenant doing it or third parties coming in and doing it,
So you're a small company that's now part of a much, much bigger company. Is it a challenge to navigate such a larger world?
Yeah,
it's got to be a total change, right?
Yeah. We were 200-ish, 250, maybe somewhere in that range, people when we were acquired, which is not a tiny company. It's decently sized. But JLL being 105, 110,000 people, there's a lot of people to meet and a lot of, different groups that do different things that you don't realize that are there until you come across, having to work with them, right?
Yeah.
But that's one of the things I've loved about becoming a JLLer is the people. The culture of the company is just very, very collaborative and friendly.
Are you based out of the Bay Area?
No, I'm in Dallas actually, but Building Engines headquarters was in Boston, and I'm in Dallas I don't know why. I've just been in Dallas for since I moved to the US.
So how long have you been in the U.S.?
So I got a tennis scholarship because came from a tennis family. Wanted to be a professional tennis player when I grew up. So I got a tennis scholarship to Oklahoma State. So I moved to Oklahoma when I was 17 from Australia. And then I got my first job in Dallas in telecom. I was a software engineer. And then I stuck around and had 2 kids, and I've been in Dallas ever since.
Okay. Can we talk case studies? Is there an example of, maybe a retail property and, how it uses building engines, just so I can get like a real world example?
One of our longest standing customers is maybe Brixmor, right? Really, really large operator of retail. And they've been a long standing customer, and they use the platform to do a lot of things. They do their compliance inspections. They do, tickets for tenants when there's an issue that they are responsible for, but the tenant's not. And with them over, I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, we did a bunch of work to help them manage the vendors getting in and out of the buildings. So things where there's a number of vendors under contracts to do snow plowing in the Northeast in the winter, or roof work, or, things that are common and they need vendors, all over the country, so they have national, local vendors. And so we did a bunch of work where they could, whenever work needed to be done, the property managers could have access to the contract and then send the work order to the vendor. And then we managed the vendor's work and, make sure they didn't, overcharge the rates over what is in the contract, and then collect their invoices and help them get paid. Just because it's very different than office, right? So like there's a lot more vendors in the building, and that's something we worked a lot with them over the years. And then that's now being moved into from our classic product to our flagship products. A lot of customers are starting to use that more and more. They're just digitizing their whole business. Especially the bigger operators in retail. We're seeing the REITs and those guys moving much faster now into digitizing their business and getting everything into a system like ours. Yeah, one other case study that I'll talk about is there's the plaza at the Coral Gables in Miami. Really big. It's a multi-use, like there's a hotel, 2 office towers, there's a giant parking garage that connects everything. There's a 170 square foot of retail. I think there's also a couple of residential apartment buildings and also like really nice, expensive condos there too. That type of building spans a number of building types, and it's very complex. But the retailers, I think a lot of the big operators or big owners of retail are moving that direction for sure. And the tech needs in that type of complex is stretches everything, right? You need the office technology for amenity, conference room bookings. You need, residential and even small retail needs a lot of work, technology around automating the rent collections and late fees and all things like that, and everything needs to be connected to the accounting system automatically, and in anything like that. Mobile credentialing, people into their apartments, people into the office, people into the parking garage. Automating the payments of the parking systems. There's a lot going on.
And you do all of that?
We do most of that.
Wow.
Yeah. We do, residentials, we get pulled into residential by our customers when they are an office or a retail owner or an industrial owner that have some residential. We don't just go after or specialize in residential because there's a lot of needs, like things like lost and found, is a residential technology need. We don't have that because, in office, retail, industrial, that's not that's not a big need for them. And the types of many bookings in residential are like bikes and the cabana at the pool and, things like that, which is very different than what is the type of amenity bookings in office buildings or in a big retail complex, So we do a lot of it, but it just takes a lot of development time and effort to go into a new building type and really understand what the teams need and then build all those features. And, there's just a lot. Yeah.
And that's what's so fascinating to me is this very specific business that a software has to understand. Mm-hmm. And you're could be coming from a technology world. So how do you, we'll talk about retail since, that's something that you've adapted and gone into. How do you figure out what they need and how to build it and how it works right for them when you're not a retailer or you're not a real estate owner yourself?
Right. Well, you really need good customers, right? Because you got to do a lot of discovery. And we typically spend a lot of time with a particular customer has a particular need, and we go sit with them, watch them what they're doing. They have them video what their problem is. Then we take that and we transcribe it, and then we go talk to another 20 customers. Do you have the same problem? Like, what other problems do you have? One of the biggest mistakes you can make as a software company is listening to one customer about one problem, and then, building that thing and saying, okay, now we have a retail solution, right? And before you know it, you try to sell that solution, and they're like, well, what about these other 10 things that are my problems, So it takes probably, I don't know, in our market, it's $5 to $10 million in 3 or 4 years to get to a point where you have a mature product in that space. It's the science of product management, right? It's a black magic, in a lot of cases, but I've been doing it for 35 years.
I think we have to talk about the big thing for the past few years that's on my mind has been generative AI. Mm-hmm. That is the type of AI that is creative and almost eerily human-like. But I know there's many other forms of AI and machine learning that have been around for longer than that. So what is your view for building engines, for incorporating AI into your products? Have you, will you, how does that work?
Yep. We're well underway with quite a large investment. The JLL teams are really, really, really working with us closely on that, and a lot of other customers. So what we're doing in our division is we're embedding large language models into the application to help speed up and actually let, there will be a chat interface so people can, look across all the information about their buildings, because we store hundreds and hundreds of data points on the buildings, on the equipment, on the history of the maintenance, on the tenant tickets. If you look at just one piece of equipment in a building, the HVAC, we have the schematic diagrams, the warranty documents, the service manuals, the amount of refrigerant that has been gone in and out of that thing, every ticket, every maintenance task on it, right? AI and all of its intelligence can really help an operator just look at something as simple as that, one example, and be like, all right, when should this thing get upgraded? Is it a lemon? Is it having a lot more maintenance needed because it's not a very good piece of equipment? Is it using a lot of refrigerant, burning a lot of energy? Is it cost effective to flip it, put in a whole new, more efficient system or not? And when you own a portfolio of some of our customers have 4,500 buildings and probably 8,000 pieces of HVAC equipment, it's impossible as a team or a bunch of humans to look across years and years of data points to actually make a decision on what to do, in your capital expenditures. So it's going to help, it's going to be like your best friend who can do things 10 times as fast as you, has your best interests, in mind, and can help you make decisions.
I think it's fascinating. I've been using more AI tools, generative AI tools more and more to do that kind of thing, like the busy work, the referring through a bunch of different documents and assembling things for me. What I do find is I still am in the phase where I still go back and check the work and make sure I'm going back. Okay, yeah, that's right. I imagine trust is a big thing because I hear this, the AI can have hallucinations. Mm-hmm. How do you control for that to make sure that it isn't being wonky and saying the wrong thing?
Yeah, we're moving diligently and deliberately, use case by use case, I think. So we started our first AI feature went into Prism, into the Building Engines product earlier this year, and it was a really small feature. It was an interesting problem. In the work order module, the tenants create a ticket for a problem they have, and then the engineers get assigned the ticket, and they go work on the ticket, and then there's a chat feature where they can chat with the tenant, right? Hey, ask them a question, and just communicate back and forth, right? And they can write notes in there and things like that. But the engineer is communicating digitally with the tenant. We had a few situations over the years where engineers wrote some curse notes into their work orders because they were, the tenant did something to break something or, and then those notes made it back to the tenant, which caused obviously tenant dissatisfaction. You don't want to, lose a tenant over an engineer who's just a little grumpy that day. And so our first AI feature was we put AI in to check the comments, right? Just to read it and just say and check it. Is this a professional comment that should go from our property team to our tenant, right? And then if it detects language or terseness of tone, it will quarantine it and send it for approval. Like, hey, it'll send it back to the right initial person who wrote it or the property team, and then they can edit it and then submit it again. And it just will prevent. And it's simple. But when we deployed it, I would say the accuracy of detecting inappropriate comments or whatever, like profanity, was great at detecting. But,
I mean, there's just 7 words, right?
Yeah, exactly. But no, there's not, because we're multi-language.
Yeah, I know.
So there's thousands in these words. And it's like, so profanity was actually quite good at detecting profanity, and all of our testing was great. Then just professional tone and those types of things are a little harder. So we just keep, when we released it, we told everyone, hey, this feature's there. We're all curious to see how well it works. And our customers were just as curious too, because all it did was, put things in quarantine, and then they just had to resubmit it or edit it and resubmit it, like depending on what it detected. So it wasn't like a big impactful thing if it did it wrong. So we're starting with those, right? The next thing that we've been working on that's coming out really soon is all the document abstraction. So we collect a lot of invoices from vendors, and vendors have to key in when they submit an invoice, have to key in all the line items, and some of these invoices can be really long and time consuming to key in a bunch of data into the system so they can get paid. So we're going to read the invoice, pre-fill all those fields for them, their address, like there's a heap of stuff that we can do. And then we're not going to submit it automatically. We're going to have the vendor check it, right? So here's the fields we pre-filled from your invoice, from your PDF or whatever image file. Double check it before you submit it, right? And it's really good at that. Right. I think, doing one document at a time really, is going to help save time. What will be really interesting is when we get to be able to look at, all right, show me all my contracts and show me all my leases and tell me which ones are terrible and which ones I should renegotiate, or, which ones have the highest risk, and where there's more subjection and there's 50, some lease documents are 70 pages long with so many clauses, having the AI do that over 7,000 documents is where the more work and learning. It's just none of the AIs are at that point yet to do all that really accurately. Because even if it's a 5% error rate, some of the data will be wrong in the system, and when you query it, it'll give you a wrong answer, maybe in 1 in 20 leases, which isn't good. So we're toe stepping. So
you need enough training material for the model to be trained on, right? Is that how it works?
Yeah, because in a legal contracts, there's custom clauses often, right? And so every custom clause or language term used, it's got to interpret it, right? And if it's interpreting it like we do, sometimes we assume things or interpret things wrong, and it can do that too. As it gets more connections to the real estate industry and our types of documents and our types of work, it's just going to get better and better. Yeah.
So that's sort of if I were to ask you your outlook for building engines, and maybe the next 10, 15 years or so, that's kind of what you're seeing the future being, is just adding in more and more smart elements like that.
Yeah, in the next 12 months, we've been doing a lot in the background, and we've got a few small features, but that's just been setting the framework for the AI models in the platform. In 25, we'll be doing a lot. There'll be a whole heap of features, like all the document abstraction. There'll be a chat interface in the engineers' mobile app. So we have a big part of our product is engineers use. All of their inspections, all of their maintenance tasks, all their tenant tickets are in the mobile app. And they use the mobile app and they go around the building and they do their work and they complete it and sign off, write their notes and submit it, and put in their hours and track their materials and light bulbs and all that stuff, right? And so the app is sort of core helping them prioritize and do their work. We were putting AI in that, saying, they could take a photo of a broken HVAC unit and say, take a look at this unit. What could be wrong? right?
Wow.
And then the AI will be like, the coil's dirty. There's dents in this part of the thing that could prevent cooling, air movement blockage. Check that. Do you want me to pull up the service manual or the warranty? Do you want me to check if it's under warranty still in the warranty document? And the engineer can go, yeah, please check the warranty because it's not working. We can get a free one, And they don't have to go find the document. They don't have to go read the document. They don't have to go, do all that stuff, right? And then the AI eventually will, in the later phase, will be like, all right, the engineer can say, well, this thing's broken. It's under warranty. I'm going to close this ticket, but can you tell the property team they need to contact the, Linar or one of the HVAC, whoever made the HVAC unit, contact our vendor to get it replaced, and so open a ticket for someone else automatically. And the AI will be like another property manager doing work in the system.
So it's almost like instead of you, typing into some interface, it's like you're just talking to a person.
Yeah, you're just talking.
I love it.
Yeah. And it'll be right there. You're in your phone or on your desktop, or yeah. But I mean,
Wow.
I was at some of this stuff's pretty cool too. There's a lot more going on in the whole market. Like we're doing this stuff in our niche, right? But Meta, I was at a private equity firm's AI conference on Tuesday, Fifth Wall, and they had someone senior from the wearables division, on stage. She had a pair of those glasses, right? And, she was asking questions to the audience like, hey, in retail, when people shop, will there actually be aisles and aisles and aisles of product? And everyone was like, well, that's how it's always been done. And she's like, well, with our glasses, now we're working on things where you can just walk down the aisle and there's only one of each type of food, right? Not 10 boxes of 24 packs of Coke. There'll be a can of Coke there, and you can just tap your glasses that you want to buy that item, and you walk around a really small store, clicking the things you want, and then go to the front, and your basket's waiting.
Yeah.
Right. So it's almost like an internet shopping experience, but you're in the store. That could be one way that our real estate changes in the future, right? We might not need giant Costco warehouses and wait in huge lines for, to check out.
Yeah.
You might be able to walk around a smaller store, and the rest of the store is a warehouse supply chain of the things you just ordered, and it meets you at the front. Could be. So real estate, AI is going to change not just like products like ours, but how the spaces are being used,
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's amazing. And we don't even know, right? We don't even know how it's going on.
Yeah, and it's funny. I mean, I have an internal conflict because on the one one side of me, all of my experience with generative AI and other AI tools is that it's shockingly, amazingly powerful.
Mm-hmm.
But then on the other half, it's now been around for it's been about 2 years since ChatGPT came out, and it hasn't revolutionized anything yet. But when it came out, I was like, oh, this is going to revolutionize things. So I think me personally, I'm like, oh, was I overhyping this or?
Yeah, I'll give you a couple of reasons why it's slow.
Okay.
Right. So first of all, everyone shocked everyone. But now corporations are trying to build applications and use it, right? But before you do that, there was just massive questions about the data security. If I put my private data into AI, will everyone else get to use that private data, right? And so there's been a lot of legal and security-based pauses put on everything until the makers of the LMMs are getting the right terms in their contracts with us around privacy and security. And those terms have been in flux and changing a lot, like OpenAI's and Microsoft's terms have changed a number of times in the last year and a half around who owns the data, all those types of things. So that's all getting ironed out. So people had to go slow because everyone's legal department had been like, whoa, this is private information of our customers, of our business. We cannot have that just leaked into the internet. And then second of all, is just it takes a minute to make something enterprise ready and train people and change management and all those things. So, if you're trying to build a use case, you always start small. You always test things. Like I said, with our product, we put a little Our first AI was just checking comments, all right? But it took a lot to wire up the whole infrastructure and all the security parts of it and all that. Just took a long time. A lot of people, a long time. The contracts behind it, the cost of it, all that stuff just takes a minute. Now what you'll see, I think, is all that groundwork, all that slow moving for security reasons and privacy reasons is all getting kind of cleared up. And I think you're going to see a lot more really cool things coming into our market and all markets, like especially in 25. I bet we see a lot.
All right, I'm looking forward to it. Well, do you have time for one more question?
Sure do.
Do you still play tennis?
I do. I play in a league in Dallas. I try to play once a week, but I've had 6 surgeries on my left knee, one on my right knee, both my ankles reconstructed. So like I just play doubles these days. I do it just to be around the guys and have a beer afterwards and all that. Yeah.
Well, I have a really controversial question to ask you. Mm-hmm. What's your take on pickleball? It's the pickleball trend. Because other tennis players I know are looked down upon.
Yeah. I think it's great for tennis is a super difficult game to actually learn and get good at until it's a point, you literally have to hit 1 million tennis balls to be able to get to a point where you can really have good challenge and play, right? Because it's a hard skill, like serving, you have to throw the ball over your head. It's a small little area you get hit in, and the net's really high. So pickleball is a sport that like anyone can play, even young children can enjoy it. It really takes a very technically challenging game and brings it to the masses, So for that, it's great. The only thing I don't like about it is they're taking over and using the tennis courts, and they're stealing the court. So it's harder to find a tennis court, in the Dallas parks these days,
It was great to get to know you, Daniel. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks for the time, James.
If you like this podcast, do me a favor, go into the app that you're listening to and give us a rating. Or even better, give us a little review, right? Just a sentence about what you like about the show. You can subscribe to Where We Buy on the iPhone podcast app, on Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Or you can always find us on the web at wherewebuy.show. We also post a ton of cool videos and interviews on LinkedIn and YouTube, video tours, interviews with folks that you won't hear on this audio podcast. You can check it out by going to the website everythingweknow.show. If you have a specific question about retail, shopping centers, or retail real estate, you can feel free to connect with me and send me a message on LinkedIn. You can find me by searching for James Cook, JLL. Our theme music is Run in the Night by the Good Lords under Creative Commons license.